Point is going to click here. To a Monday edition of the Backstage Pass. Always busy here. Of course, a new week is a new slew of shows coming up this week and some exciting ones coming up. So be sure and stay tuned to all the social media out there. Again, presented by our good friends over at Bangtail Whiskey. If you hadn't checked them out at bangtail.com. Also, Hank Jr. Productions. And of course, we're official now, of course, having merchandise out there for the Backstage Pass. Just check out mitchmax.com. All the information there is at the bottom of the screen. If you want to grab you a little hoodie or long sleeve t-shirt with the cold weather, I guess, coming up here, always you can get the logo and get all the merchandise at mitchmax.com. Brandon Morrell and Jeff McMahon here on the Backstage Pass, as always. Some great shows coming up this week. Bobby Tomberlin is going to stop by tomorrow, and on Wednesday, our good friend Taylon Hope. But speaking of good friends, she's been doing this with me since the inception of the show, 2019, when we started doing this little thing called sports and music. And I remember we talked about one called Aveline back then, and she's got a new one now called Take the Trash Out across all the digital platforms. Show favorite Emily Miller back on the show. What's been up?
Hey, just staying busy and doing whatever I do best, I guess. But thanks for having me again.
Always great to have you here. Well, tell me a little bit about, I guess, the singles, the music, keeping busy, what's been going on, and I guess how this even kind of slowing down a little bit for, I guess I should say, pandemic slowing down, but trying to get back to a sense of normalcy. Some cases going down here and there in several states and more people getting vaccinated, but you guys keeping busy as musicians, and the single's done real well for you guys since it came out there in March, I believe, right?
Yes. We've been doing good. I'm so proud of this song and the music video and everything else that came along with it. This was probably one of the best songs, or the most fun songs, I'll put it that way, that I have been able to work with and work on and create, and just watch the creative process with it has been a lot of fun for me. And I've just had a vision more so with this song than I have in the last couple releases I've had. And so just staying busy playing this song wherever anyone asks for original music, I'm like, I got you. And I've had such a good feedback from this release, and so it's everything I could ask for.
Going back to that first one we talked about here on the show, one of my favorites that really caught my attention there in 2019. You had a lot of fun doing Aveline. I remember you telling us that on the show here, and that led to Dear Lonely. Kind of remind the audience out there a little bit of Aveline, kind of the idea behind it, the writers, and of course a great team to work with there. And then it led, like I said, I mentioned there, Dear Lonely comes out of that 2019 too. Kind of take the audience through that single as well.
Yeah, Aveline and Dear Lonely are two very near and dear songs to my heart. Specifically, Dear Lonely, it is a song of my story, and I truly feel like the song will always be the most personal song that I think I will write. A huge part of my life had been a struggle with, I'm a firm believer that all of us struggle with some form of addiction, whether that's sex, drugs, alcohol. Mine happened to be loneliness. I was constantly talking to people that maybe I shouldn't have been talking to. And it kind of led me down a dark hole. And one night after I got off the phone with my mom and my sister, and my mom said, we can't help you anymore. If you're going to continue this, you got to fix yourself. And I think that's a lot of conversations that a lot of people have when they're going through a rough patch and kind of hitting rock bottom in a way. And so I sat down on my couch alone one night. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and I'm not sure where it came from. The name the title Dear Lonely came to me, and out popped the song. And it's truly a gift from God that song was written. It's helped me. It's continuously helps me. And I think even with Aveline, I think Aveline and Take the Trash Out have had a similar story to them, where it's about being your authentic self and not being afraid to take out what is not good in your life, and don't be afraid to just be 100% authentically yourself. And I think over the last year or so, I have really truly come into my own and who I am as a person, as an artist, as everything, letting that sassy side of me come out, along with just letting the authentic, just sad stuff come out. Like I am here and I am who I am, and I think that's what my music tells.
I first of all, hello, because I didn't get to do the last interview with you. Um, and just so you know, I will not abandon you during the course of the interview the way Brandon did during your last interview when he abandoned you and left you alone in the
Oh
middle of
my
the
gosh, I
interview
forgot about that.
while you were left to riff on your
I left her alone. Did not mean to do that.
yeah.
You jogged my memory.
I know,
Forgot.
I forgot.
Yeah, you were yeah, and then of course he blames it on his daughter,
Well,
for unplugging. But
well, she did know. She did know times had changed when you have a now 20-month-old running around. Times did change last year, and she has snuck in this little studio here
yeah,
and unplugged some wires and touched some stuff. So I'll just and she knows I did apologize for that too. I did.
Okay, I know, I'm kidding. But and you kind of already answered the question that I was going to ask, but in looking into the new single, I've heard or read somewhere where you talk about how this single is kind of the most accurate picture of you, or something to that effect. Maybe I'm paraphrasing, but um, I think you've already kind of addressed how I think it was. Maybe it was just the piece of you that had not really been spoken to yet, because it kind of seems like you have that self-awareness that Miranda Lambert has, that does have The House That Built Me and Gunpowder and Lead. Would that maybe be
That
because
I
I
would
read that and I wanted to get some explanation because I didn't really think it was true the way I read it. So
yes, and that is a very accurate analysis of that. Yes, I will say that is a huge I've always been aren't we all females, males too, but I am very emotional person, and so when it comes to songwriting and everything, like I'm gonna let my Dear Lonely side out, and I'm gonna let my sass jam, as I call it, of Take the Trash Outside out. And yes, it is very much just a piece of me that had not been shared yet, and that possibly had not been written yet for me. And I really enjoyed writing Take the Trash Out and bringing out the sassy, sarcastic, sometimes side of me that my close friends get on an everyday basis, but sometimes my crowd. Actually, if I'm being honest, if you've been to one of my shows, you see the sarcastic side of me in everything that I do. I'm not afraid to bark back at someone that's barking at me, and I get that from my mom. She's always been that way, and so I had somebody that told me the other day at a show that my flat tires that I in my old car, I had like 8 flat tires in a matter of 3 years, and they were like, that sounds like a user error. And I was like, listen, I did not ask for your opinion. And the whole crowd starts laughing and everything. But I'm not afraid to bark back at people. And I think
right,
Take the Trash Out is kind of that side of me coming out.
right,
I
right.
love it. That's what makes it a great single out there. Of course, you can get that wherever you stream or download out there. We're going to have you play that for us today on the show. So that'll be
Yeah.
fun to do here just a little bit too. Hey, I got to ask you, what's one of the toughest things? We know the industry's tough. They call Nashville a 10-year town. We just saw the CMA or the CMA Awards just last week. I always want to say ACM CMA, kind of this Country Music Awards, same thing, but different titles, different abbreviations, but great recognition for a lot of the great stars in the industry. Do you ever kind of sit back and you say, success never stops in this. We have to put out the right song. I've found my sound. I know who I am as an artist. I know who I want to be. Do you kind of ever envision yourself or set goals? You're like, man, one day I want to step on that same stage at the CMA or ACM Awards.
Yeah, and to be honest, sometimes I feel like other people set those standards for me in my life. I have so many people that they watch the CMA Awards and they're like, "You would do so much better up there," and so it's kind of always been in the back of my head, like one of these days, like, it's hard to imagine
Mhm.
when I'm at where I'm at right now and still like climbing. It's hard to imagine that side and being there, but I've always had a dream of playing on the Grand Ole Opry, and
Mhm.
that's kind of one of my bucket list things that I would like to get to, and so when that happens, we'll find our next stepping stone. I'm more of a stepping stone type of
Mhm.
person than I see the big picture, but I like the little steps to get there more so, and I like to focus on the little steps before I get to the big ones. And so, but looking back over the last few years and seeing what I have accomplished without even realizing it, and different milestones that I've hit with people that I've opened for or worked with. It's crazy to
Mhm.
think a few years ago I was sitting in college, and a few years past that I was sitting at home in Ohio trying to decide where to go to school, and knowing that I've accomplished all of these things have been absolutely crazy for me. And so yeah, I hope one of these days I get to cross all these things
Mhm.
off my list, and I just keep climbing in the process and keep releasing songs that are me, and hopeful that they one day it just
Mhm.
clicks. And I'm very hopeful, and I do think that eventually it will click.
Well, talk about those stepping stones for a minute, because and I want to ask you about this song in particular. I I know from my experience, I wrote and recorded a song that I never really had any intention of doing anything with. And years later, a woman found that song that drew something that was completely unintended from the song. And it meant something to her in a way that I did not even envision. And to me, that was one of those stepping stones, one of those things that I never really saw that even coming. Now, granted, you may have seen this coming a little bit, but I want you to talk about your song Prince Charming, because there was I mean, not only the the reason you wrote it, and I want to say that you wrote it with a specific thing in mind, but you wound up singing it for some people that it was not written for. Is that correct? Or what was
Yes.
I, and I'm kind of seeing that as one of those, I wasn't seeking this, but I'll always have that kind of moments, right?
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
tell that story? Because I don't know that I really understand it.
Yeah, I wrote that song for a close friend of mine that I grew up going to church with. She was getting married, and she asked me to sing her wedding, and her relationship with her now husband was one that I always kind of looked up to while I was dating actually the guy that I wrote Take the Trash Out about. And I was dating him, and we were going through a patch, and we'd broken up, and I was just kind of confused on life, and she helped walk me through, like, this is how men, because they her and her husband had broken up for a little bit, and just trying to find that spot of, I didn't know whether it was just a short-term breakup or if it was forever. And so just being there for me. And so when she asked me to sing at her wedding, I wrote this song and kind of envisioned what I had always hoped for in finding my Prince Charming. And I'm a hopeless romantic. I love all of the sappy love stories that you watch on all the Hallmark movies and everything. And so I was playing a show in Kentucky, and there were people there, had no idea, but there was a picture that we had found of me talking to them after the show. And fast forward months, and this couple that was at that show had won a free wedding through something kind of similar to Say Yes to the Dress, but it was called Renee's Bridal Takeover, and they won a free wedding. And they asked me to sing at the show or sing at the wedding. And so they contacted me, and it happened to be being recorded for a show on ABC, Renee's Bridal Takeover. And so it was one of those things where it was just like writing a song about my hopes and of falling in love, and for my good friend's wedding turned into being featured on TV and using it as like the theme song for the show, and meeting some really cool people along the way. And so, yeah, that is a true stepping stone. And I never thought that song would get as far. I thought it was just going to be a song that I have sang at probably 15 or 20 weddings at this point. But now it's become a song that I can say has been on TV, which is really cool.
One of those great milestones to hit, and you should be proud of that too as well. I want to ask you about this. I tell you what, let's do the song first. Let's do one of the 2 songs today. Have you perform that, and then we'll come back.
Yes.
I've got some great questions. You've done a lot of great work from the charity side of things, singing the national anthem, Special Olympics, and different events like that, hospital fundraisers, and that's always warm to your heart too. And I love the story where you grew up classically trained. I want to talk more about that too, and get some more of the lowdown on that. Plus, we still got rapid fire in the end there. So it's Emily Miller, and it's the Backstage Pass. And again, Emily, it's all yours.
Sounds good. Well, first what I'm going to do is the current single, Take the Trash Out. Hope y'all enjoy. I always say I wrote the song about my ex. That's why it's called Take the Trash Out. But here we go. You drove away in your car, I threw your clothes in the yard, and I think I've had them done enough. I don't believe things you say, I hate these schemes that you play. We had everything but love. It started smelling fishy in here, so I had to grab myself a beer and take the trash out. Buy me a brand new man, someone who's gonna take me by the hair and show me all in all the ways you can, and treat me like a queen that I know I am. Tired of these boys, yeah, I need a man. You done threw away your last chance to take the trash out. Let's get a few things here. I wish you'd just disappear, and I got my boots in high gear. And now that you ain't been here, my makeup's been getting smeared, and it's time, it's not 'cause of tears. My life's been better since you've been gone. I don't know why you took me so long to take the trash out. Got me a brand new man, someone who's gonna take me by the hair and show me all in all the ways you can, and treat me like a queen that I know I am. Tired of these boys, yeah, I need a man. You done threw away your last chance to take the trash out. Oh, and take the trash out. Well, I got a little junk in my trunk, but I won't tell you where to pick it up. And take the trash out. Buy me a brand new man, someone who's gonna take me by the hair and show me all in all the ways you can, and treat me like a queen that I know I am. Tired of these boys, yeah, I need a man. You done threw away your last chance to take the trash out. Got me a brand new man, someone who's gonna take me by the hand and show me all and all the ways you can, and treat me like a queen. You know I am. Tired of these boys, yeah, I need a man. You done threw away your last chance to take the trash out. Oh, let's take the trash out.
Go behind the scenes with some of the biggest artists in music today with the Backstage Pass, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. Join Brandon Morrill and his co-hosts Kirsty Krause, Jeff McMahon, and Karen Lee Batten as they talk to rising stars and legends about their music careers. Listen to their latest tracks and learn fun facts about the men and women behind the music you love. And be sure to tune into the Backstage Pass Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. And welcome into the Backstage Pass.
The Bangtail pour is comprised of a sweet corn mash base. The front has a subtle sweetness and not too sharp. It has notes of a medium char or white oak for a smoky flavor in the middle, and the tail has a super smooth and warm finish.
And back here on the show again, Nashville recording artist Emily Miller on the show. And as I always do that, I like to put up the websites. I'm a website type of person. You guys know me when it comes to social media. So check that out because there's a lot of cool stuff on there that you can find. Of course, the newest single, Take the Trash Out, across all the digital platforms. Back here, Jeff McMahon, Brandon Morrell's the Backstage Pass. The top artists come here to shine, which we always like to do here on the show. Again, thanks to Benchmax.com, the official merchandise maker of the Backstage Pass, Hank Jr. Productions, and, of course, our good friends over at Bangtail Whiskey for making it happen. Sassy, it fits you. Great song. We talked a lot about that, too, so you should be proud of what you put out there, too. I love that at the same time. What a great single to put out there to your fans. Hey, let me ask you about this because you love to give back. You've done a lot of I mentioned this before we went to the song. The national anthem has become something that you love doing, very patriotic. Of course, Veterans Day was last week, and happy Veterans Day to all our veterans out there. Hope they had a great, great day, too. Always to attribute and to recognize the military, something we're very proud here to do on the show. But you've done this for Belmont and, of course, the Special Olympics and hospital fundraisers. Just kind of shine a light on that a little bit more, and that's very, very special to you as a human being, as an artist, and just something you really enjoy.
Oh, 100%. I love our national anthem. I'll sing it wherever someone asks me to sing it. I will never turn down the national anthem. It didn't used to be that way. I used to be terrified of the song because it's not an easy song to sing. But I started singing it back in junior high or high school for sporting events, and which led to different actual big events in like the Special Olympics and other things. But yeah, I will play it anywhere. It's always been a special song to me. I'm a huge fan of our military, huge supporter. I love our country more than anything. And so I even sang it last week at a bar. Somebody,
wow.
I was playing down in downtown Nashville, and some guy came up and he had $40 in his hands and he said, sing the national anthem. And they were impressed that I could do it like that. And I was like, listen, this ain't my first rodeo. I've done this a time or two. And so I was like, give me my note. And I told my guitar player, I was like, give me a C sharp, and just started singing it. And it's always very cool when it comes to the national anthem. I think the most special part about being able to sing it is watching the crowd feel so excited about someone singing it, and everybody standing up, removing their hat, going towards the flag that was up on the rooftop of where I was singing, even, and just at special events and stuff, just seeing the pride of as Americans is just, it's so rewarding just to be lucky enough to be chosen to sing at any event.
So now the national anthem, first of all, props to you for knowing C sharp, because as anybody that has ever sung that song knows, you start on D sharp instead of C sharp, and all of a sudden you're not
screwed.
getting it anymore. Yeah.
Yep.
Or whatever your note is, depending on what key you're doing it in, because it is so rangy. But you know, the thing about that song is that you're more likely to go viral from a bad performance of it than a good performance. Now, there are still great performances out there that, you know, Whitney Houston is a given.
Oh, yes.
You know, Faith Hill, I'm sure you're a fan of hers from listening to some of the stuff you do, has a great one. But there's a lot of really awful ones out there too. Now, do you have, as many as you've done, do you have a performance of that song that really comes to mind as one that was more memorable than some of the others?
You know, not really. I feel like each of them are like special in their own right. Like I remember watching all of I remember Demi Lovato's performance of the national anthem. I think it was at a football game or something. But I remember just being in awe. Anytime, I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to the national anthem. I don't like the frills. I don't like the going off and being your own little thing. Like, it's the national anthem. It's almost like Amazing Grace and like singing the hymns in church. Like sing them like they're intended to be sang. And
Right.
don't like that's my mindset. And so I mean, anytime I'm singing it, it's just a special moment. And so I feel like just singing at different sporting events, I feel like the bigger, this might be my ego getting me, the bigger the event,
Yeah.
the better, the more special it is, I feel like. And so just I've done it for Vanderbilt, like for one of their last football games of the season before they went to the World Series, or not football, it was the baseball. And so that was cool. Like all the stands were packed and stuff. But really, anytime I get to sing it, it's special.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great thing. Like I said, to keep that just those memories in mind, like you said, for sporting events, which we love to cover here too, and sports music, Grand Slam of it here too, and watch the Braves win that World Series was tough on me, Emily, but I was like, it's
Really?
destiny being an Astros fan. So it's like, Houston, we've had some sour moments in our mouth. It's just added to it, and hopefully we're back. next year.
I'm from Cincinnati, and so I was raised a Reds fan. We went to the Reds game, so the Reds are never going to make it to the World Series again. Let's be honest. I think it's equivalent to the Braves. Like no one thought the Braves were going to get there again, and then here we are. So maybe one of these days the Reds will. I know it would make my dad so happy, but yeah, it was fun to watch being in Nashville. So many people are Braves fans, and so it was fun to see all my friends get so excited over something. And so I think that was the special part for us Nashvillians, that just got to see something so cool.
And in the South, you can't beat that. First time since '95, they'd won a championship there, and of course brought a major championship there to Atlanta professional sports. And congratulations to them. They definitely earned that, no doubt, holding that trophy up. And of course, we couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, so definitely the Braves deserve to win that championship. It's Emily Miller. Be sure to give her a follow out there. We'll put the website up here again. Hey, time for another one here on the show. Let's play another one. You've got so many great songs out too. It starts to become just a great broadcast when you sing, because I can listen to you sing all day long here on the show, which is never a dull moment. She brightens our day here. And in fact, David was watching from all the way over in England, across the pond over there. He says, can Emily sing a song? So David, yeah, she's about to do that. Here we go.
There we go. Well, since we were talking about Prince Charming, I think that's the one I'll do next. Like I said, this one I wrote for my friends, but it's taken a life of its own. But this is kind of my story and my hope to find my Prince Charming. So I hope y'all like it. Every day since I was 5 years old, I watched those fairy tales, hoping one day I'd find my prince who'd come and give me his name. Every night I prayed to the man upstairs that he would find me the perfect name. I'm looking for my Prince Charming, and then I come to save me. At last, each night you our lives. Precious, precious charming, never come to save me. I will thank each night for the man by my side, because you gave me my prince, Prince
The Bangtail pour is comprised of a sweet corn mash base. The front has a subtle sweetness and not too sharp. It has notes of a medium char or white oak for a smoky flavor in the middle, and the tail has a super smooth and warm finish.
Go behind the scenes with some of the biggest artists in music today with the Backstage Pass, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. Join Brandon Morrill and his co-host Kirsty Krause, Jeff McMahon, and Karen Lee Batten as they talk to rising stars and legends about their music careers. Listen to their latest tracks and learn fun facts about the men and women behind the music you love. And be sure to tune into the Backstage Pass Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 6:30, powered by the SportsGuysPodcast.com. And welcome into the Backstage Pass. And you can see why she was classically trained and just beautiful vocals. And I was a vocals major there. Belmont University, you've done it all in music and still a lot more to go there. Prince Charming is one of the latest singles out there they put out last year. Her camp did. Emily Miller back here on the Backstage Pass. Jeff McMahon and Brandon Morrill alongside here too. What you got, Jeff? You were breathing like you had a question.
Oh,
ready
I was
to roll.
Breathing like I've got a question. Hopefully, we all have questions.
We
then
have questions, yes, but you like.
I want all of us to have questions. Well, no, I know. I saw. I did see where, and this is probably even more relevant to you because I remember hearing something about you growing up playing piano and picking up guitar later. You know, part of it I think is probably because you have the. I mean, I've got mine back there, which is completely different than playing something portable. But you know, obviously being in Nashville, you're able to carry your guitar a lot of places. You can do things that you can't necessarily do without hauling gear. I wound up hauling a lot of gear. But David from England was asking specifically about what kind of guitar you play, and you know, is that particular guitar especially important to you, or how important is it in the performing and writing process for you?
Yeah, great question. This guitar that I'm playing today, this one is a Gibson J200. It is a custom. Her name is Fancy Jolene. I name all of my guitars, and my other guitar that I have is named Old Faithful. It's the one that I've had since I was 13 years old when I first got my first guitar. But I also play piano. I'm also right through the camera on the other side of the camera is my baby grand. And I was able to finally bring it down to Nashville about 6 months ago when I moved into my house. And so guitar is a huge part. I have actually never written a song on piano. Piano is one of those songs where I can take songs that I've written on guitar and bring them to piano, but I have not fully I stopped playing piano for a while because I had a keyboard. And if you've played a baby grand, you know that going from a baby grand to a keyboard is not the same. And it's not as fun. It's not as beautiful. I had a really nice keyboard, but I ended up selling it. And when I brought, because I just didn't use it, and I stopped playing. And so when I was able to bring my baby grand down a couple months back, it brought out a whole different side of me creatively. And I'm finally starting to I play it every day, and I'm learning my fingering again. And it's amazing how my childhood abilities are starting to come back. And I've played a bunch of competitions and festivals and stuff playing piano before I even sang. And all of those kind of techniques and stuff are coming back. And it's become fun for me to start the creative process on piano. And so I'm slowly starting to get it. But right at the moment, guitar is where I write all of my songs. And sometimes I go back and forth. Both of my guitars sound so different when they're being played, and so sometimes I'm in the mood to play fancy, and sometimes I'm in the mood to play Old Faithful. It depends on the day, and so that's it's a huge part though of my creative process. I hope to one day very soon have a song that I can write on piano and play on piano, because it brings out a different side of my voice too. I'd say it's not, I think because I learned how to sing playing piano more so than guitar. I think that's a huge thing for me with my voice. But yeah, it's fun to be able to play different instruments and to have a different creative side come out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Which is really awesome too. That's I love your story, like we talked about, classically trained and all that kind of stuff. What was that like going through that? I mean, the different styles of music. You grew up listening to country, I know, in the car with your sister. You've told that story here on the show a few times too. So that great generation of country music mixed with a little classical training. I mean, it was like a part of your DNA from a young age.
Yeah, when it came to classical music, there was a time in high school where I absolutely loved it. And that's what everyone told me, oh, that's what you ought to do for a living. But then the more that I thought about it and the more that I kind of realized my own self, I realized your girl's just a little too hillbilly bumpkin to do classical music. And it wasn't for me. And even in college, they told me at Belmont, they offered me a scholarship for classical, and we had to do the first 2 years of my program at Belmont, we have to do all classical music before they introduce you into the commercial side, where you can pick, like, if you want to be pop singer, country, whatever. And so it was pulled in every direction by every instructor that I had. And my heart was never there. And even though I enjoyed it for a while, my heart wasn't there. And I found that every time they told me to practice something, I was practicing country music. I wasn't practicing classically. Even when I was playing piano, solely piano, and when I was a little girl, I never would sit down and practice the classical music that she gave me. I would always sit down and find the Alan Jackson song, or at the time, like some of the early Taylor Swift stuff that I was listening to as a little girl. I was learning Back to December on piano, and so that way I could sing it. And so classical music was never something that was going to probably be a long journey for me.
Gotcha.
Well, I, as the elder on this interview, I always have I play piano a lot with a buddy of mine that also went to Belmont, graduated recently. And he talks about doing old school things. And I always make jokes about, like back when Taylor was country, like you're so old, that you're old school. But, and I may be completely wrong, but I know that with things the way they were over the last year and a half, you did a lot of live streaming and things. And as much as you were doing classical when you were younger, I have to believe that you were very involved in country music back then, because I don't think that a lot of your peers are going to be doing Keith Whitley covers, some early Tanya Tucker stuff. I've heard you do some of those songs, and I kind of feel like you were grabbing a hold of those early on, right?
Yes,
Is that true? I mean,
100%.
seems like you got a lot of 90s, 80s, 90s in
Mhm.
you.
Oh yes. I'm a CD collector, and I know like vinyl. I'm old enough to know what a cassette is. We'll just put it that way. And I remember when cars had cassette players and stuff growing up. And but I always growing when I was probably 12 years old, I started my CD collection, and I would always, every Christmas, every birthday, I would ask for a CD, or I'd have a list of 20 CDs, and I would hope for one or two of them, but a lot of them were the Dolly Partons and the Tanya Tuckers, and people like that. And I love 80s and 90s country. I listen to prime country. I go back and forth. Like, obviously I was raised in the 2000s, and so I'm a 96 baby, and so I was raised in the 2000s, and so I listened to a lot of 2000s country, like the early Miranda Lambert and Jason Aldean stuff. Like, I love that stuff.
Right.
But when I've gotten tired of it, I always, without doubt, without hesitation, go back to prime country on Sirius XM and listen to the 80s and 90s country. And it just is always stuck in my head.
Mhm.
And everyone always asks me, how are you a 90s baby and you know so much about 80s and 90s country? And for some reason, when I listen to 80s and 90s country, it just sticks in my head. And I can listen to a song one time and I can have it stuck in my head for weeks. And 90s country is where my heart is. Toby Keith and Martina McBride and Faith Hill and Trisha Yearwood, all those early or like
Mhm.
late 90s songs
Right.
that you know so well, that everyone knows so well. Whether you're a country fan or not, I feel like the 90s was the era that we all remember and
Mhm.
that we all can relate to the music in some special way. I feel like, not that music's gone downhill since then, but I just feel like that was a special time, a special decade for music, 80s and 90s. And so, yeah, I love me some older country music.
Well, it was I wouldn't say it was so broad, but it was, marketing was very different because you didn't have all the streaming, you didn't have XM, you didn't have, so it was very focused as to where it went. And Brandon, she's dropping these big names, but this girl, I mean, you went and got one of my favorites, which is Julie Roberts,
Uh,
which, she, great stuff, but she never exploded, you
mhm.
know. I mean, she was a part of that. And Carolyn Dawn Johnson, who's
Mhm.
been on the show here, I'll give you this, you can walk away. If you don't know Charlie McClain, that's your homework. Do you know
I
Charlie
do.
McClain?
I do.
Okay. Well, then you get extra points. I'm gonna give you a
Very good.
star. I'm gonna give you a star on your homework today. Because when you started pulling some of those, I want to say I heard you do Breakdown Here somewhere.
Oh, one of my
Um,
top 10 favorite songs.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love that song. There was
yeah,
a time
killer.
I was on my way home to Ohio, and for a show, and I was in the car by myself. I was in my feels that day. I didn't realize it at the time. I made it from all the way from Nashville to past Louisville, Kentucky,
Mhm.
and I was listening to Breakdown Here on repeat and didn't even realize it. Like, I love that song, and I just sing it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I'd say it's kind of like when I put on the playlist, yourself included on there, and just people that have done the show here with Jeff and I, the 90s country stars, and we've had a bunch come on with us too. Just those songs are timeless classics and never ever get old, and it's just amazing. In fact, one of my favorite guys around town there is a great show favorite, Ty Herndon. Always loved Ty Herndon's music out there too as well. So just another one that comes to mind of the many greats who were back in the 90s. All right, so we're going to have a little fun as we close up today. And again, Take the Trash Out is the current single across all the digital platforms and wherever you download or purchase music. Make sure you get that for the holiday season. So first, out of rapid fire of the gate here, plans for Thanksgiving and plans for the holidays. What are they?
Well, Thanksgiving, I am playing in Gatlinburg on Thanksgiving Day. So I'll be spending Thanksgiving alone, but in my hotel room. But I'm going home to Ohio afterwards. But on Thanksgiving Day, I'll be playing at Old Red, Blake Shelton's bar in Gatlinburg. And I'm also playing on Black Friday, so the day after. So if anybody's in the area, come see me. But then I'm heading home to Ohio, and then Christmas, I don't really know what we're doing yet. I'm sure that our family will be getting together. My sister's a doctor, and so she's in her residency years, and so she has a really weird schedule. So the rest of us just kind of follow her schedule right now, and so I'm sure I'll be home. I got a dog at home, and so I always like going home and giving him all the pets and everything. So
All right. So when you can get it, favorite holiday meal is what dish?
corn pudding.
Okay.
Corn pudding.
I've not had. It's good. I've not had it. I've not.
It's heaven on earth.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to definitely put that on a list at some point and check out the recipe for that too. That sounds pretty good. All right.
Okay. Now let's
go
before we leave the food thing, I have another question.
All right.
For this little Ohio girl. Are you a Gold Star or Skyline?
Skyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Cincinnati girl. We do our Skyline. Gold Star is just not there.
Yep. Yep. They've got you get up in that area of the country, Brandon, and they've got 24-hour chili bars where
Really?
you go and why it's there. I don't know, maybe Emily, why anybody cares so much about chili in Cincinnati, but
because the secret ingredient is chocolate.
Well, but
Wow.
or cinnamon, depending on which one of those two you gravitate towards. And then there's always the one-off, which was my favorite, which was Camp Washington. I don't know if you know Camp Washington.
I don't think I do.
But that's also there. But yeah, there's apparently enough of an audience in Cincinnati for chili round the clock where you can go and you can get if you get the full-blown deal, 5-way, it's noodles, chili, onions, cheese, and help me, Emily, beans.
Yes,
there you go.
Okay, I could go for it all, man.
I go for the classic cheese coney.
Okay,
that's mine. But we also put it on like chips, like you put tortilla chips with sour or cream cheese, and then cheese melted on top, and then chili. Oh, it's so good, so good.
Yeah,
Jeff,
and remarkably healthy. You'd be surprised to know that, Brandon.
Well,
it's yeah,
that's a good thing. Yeah,
we call it healthy. I don't know if it actually is.
We got to get to Ohio too. Do a road show out there. Have her come join us out there. Bring us some of the good stuff out there too. All right. So new one I've come up with lately. Contestant on any game show. What would you choose?
Probably maybe Family Feud. I love Steve Harvey. Like if Steve Harvey's hosting, I'm there.
That's been the popular game shows of late. I have nobody said press your luck, but I know, Jeff, that's coming at some point, though, especially the newer editions that have come out yet. But Family Feud is still out there, and they do a great celebrity thing. I think Wheel of Fortune just started a little celebrity little thing they did on Sunday nights too. All right,
and also her willingness to go on Family Feud means that she gets along with at least 4 members of her family, which is a win.
I don't know who I'd choose. We might have to pull from my friends.
I'd watch that episode. I definitely tune in. We promote that here on the Backstage Pass, no doubt. All right, let's do this one. Is there, now that things seem to be kind of turning a slight corner out there as best it can, is there a place that, outside of the holidays or going into 22 or future years, that you're like, man, this is kind of like the bucket list vacation spot that I haven't been to yet, but this is where I want to go as the years go forward?
You know, there's 2 places that I have on my bucket list, and I'm probably going to give away my security code by saying these, like that security question. I want to go to Texas, and I want to go to Vegas. I've never been to the whole state of Texas. I want to do a Texas tour of like the entire state of Texas, and I want to go to Vegas at some point. So those are my 2 spots.
Texas tour, Jeff. I'd like to talk to her about something like that. Man, I'd love to have her down here and do that for several different venues and establishments. You got some contacts, write them down.
Yeah, well, and I just got access to a bank account I haven't had access to for a while. So, yeah, I heart Texas and Vegas was the password. So, yeah, so I can pay for the trip. I've got you covered.
That's a good thing too. Oh man, I love it too. Love our visits always. Well, again, Take the Trash Out is the current single across all the platforms. The other ones are out there. Dear Lonely, Prince Charming, Aveline. We've talked about it so many times. She's a show favorite. Make sure you check her out. EmilyCMillerMusic.com. Happy holidays to you. Best of luck with the live shows. Keep it going. And I know that there's more good stuff in the future for this very talented, super talented country music artist. Hey, continued success going forward. And we so appreciate you always making time for us here on the show.
Always. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it. All right, tomorrow, Bobby Tomerlin comes by, and Taylor Hope on Wednesday, and a good friend of ours, Jeff and our Maggie Zappa, is going to stop by on Thursday. And I guess, yeah, we'll have some more holiday stuff. Stella Prince coming up with a new holiday single this week. So it never ends here on the Backstage Pass. We keep rolling on through Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks to MitchMax.com, Bangtail Whiskey, and Hank Jr. Productions. We'll see you guys tomorrow on the show, same bat time and same bat channel, unless Jeff changes the channel. I'm just kidding. We'll see you then. Take care as we sign off and have a great night. Enjoy Monday Night Football. Rams and 49ers should be a good one there too. We'll talk to you soon.